So Matt LaFleur just had a press conference, and I think all of us are wondering, would he potentially come in and share the news that Joe Barry is no longer the defensive coordinator in Green Bay after allowing Baker Mayfield to have one of the best days of his career at Lambeau Field, one of the best performances all time by a visiting quarterback at Lambeau Field? And the answer is no. Here's from Rob Demovsky. Matt LaFleur said Joe Barry will remain the defensive coordinator and play caller for the rest of the season. Yeah, that is the plan. If I thought that was the best solution today, then we'd make that decision. So Matt LaFleur believes that Joe Barry staying as a defensive coordinator is better than him no longer being the defensive coordinator in Green Bay. And here we have from Demovsky again, more LaFleur. What's disappointing is when you go out there and it's basic concepts. Doesn't matter what phase, but day one installs and we have self-inflicted communication errors and guys, quite frankly, not in the right spot. It wasn't just on defense. And then also here, from Demovsky, LaFleur also said he would take a bigger role to make sure the defensive communication issues get fixed. He reiterated that the biggest issue was basic communication problems when you're supposed to be in certain coverage and we're not getting that communication. So one of the issues clearly is communication. For whatever reason, the players aren't getting the call. He was explaining in the press conference that Barry gives the call, it goes directly to the players. And so I am slightly confused as to how there are communication errors here. And I think that when you look at the defense and these problems that Matt LaFleur is describing, I think it all has to start at the top with the leader. Who is leading the defense? That is Joe Barry. The fact that there are still these basic communication errors when we're in, week 15, week 16, maybe the players are, causing some problems and not relaying things as quickly as they should. It could be on them. But to be as far as we are in the season, I think that it's up to the defensive coordinator to at least have taught them enough to where they can manage basic concepts at this point in the season. So while maybe it's partly the player's fault, I think it's like the guy who's teaching them, the guy who's running the defense, also I think has to take some blame when it comes to basic communication not happening. And he didn't really explain why this is. I'm not sure why it is, but the fact that LaFleur has to go in and help with basic concepts on defense, I'm just not so sure that these are issues you should be having. Especially when Joe Barry is now in his third season here, calling plays for this Packers defense. I know there are some young players in the secondary. There are some guys who, don't have a ton of experience, but I feel like these are simple, basic issues that should be fixed pretty easily, unless we don't know the full story. And I think that listening to that press conference from Matt LaFleur, I do wonder, what it would take for Joe Barry to actually get fired. Because I thought the past 2 weeks, the way things have gone, that maybe it could lead to him, parting ways with Joe Barry. But the way Matt LaFleur was talking, he was sort of, I think, protecting Barry and saying, there were some bad calls on defense. He noted like 3rd and short, playing soft coverage, and how that can't happen. And I'm sort of just shocked at this point of the season, in third year into Joe Barry's stint, it's been happening for season after season after season. So these same issues continue to come up, and Matt LaFleur says it shouldn't happen. I just don't see how it keeps happening. It honestly is perplexing to me how these same things keep happening in LaFleur himself. It's not like LaFleur said that, that's a fine coverage in that situation. He was like, that's not okay. We shouldn't do that. And so I just don't see how it happens time and time and time again. And I do wonder when the season ends if Barry will just stay around until 2024, the way that Matt LaFleur is talking, because he just sounds pretty adamant that it's not just Joe Barry. Lots of the players, like, things aren't happening as they should. They're missing assignments and not communicating well. And I just don't know what's going to happen here, defensive coordinator, going forward, because unless LaFleur is just sort of waiting till the season ends to let go of Barry, which it could happen, that's a possibility. But the way he was talking, it didn't sound as if LaFleur was, just going to hold on till the end. He sounded pretty adamant that these are basic issues, and it didn't seem to all fall on Joe Barry. And so we'll see what happens. We'll see if LaFleur hangs on to Barry after the season, because it sounds like, at least for now, the rest of the season, he will be back. And I do think that if, let's say, the final 3 games of the season, the Packers defense plays really well, I would not be shocked for Barry to be here in 2024. That would not be my choice. I think we've seen enough at this point, especially after this past game, to say, I think his time here should be over, because I think that we've seen the inconsistencies from years past. It also happened again this year after having a nice stretch of games. The inconsistency comes back. And so I think that even if there's a final good 3-game stretch, next season, there's going to be some kind of inconsistency happening once again, where the defense can't get basic concepts down and solve these communication errors. So who knows? We will keep an eye on this. But that is pretty much what happened this afternoon. If you want more Packers content, feel free to subscribe down below, and I'll see you guys next time.